All right, so welcome to our parent presentation, Spring Semester Reset. I appreciate that you have taken time today from your busy schedules to be here with us today. I wanted to make a note that you were invited to this presentation, not because your student is in trouble in any way. We understand that many of our students right now are experiencing challenges, and we want to offer our students and to you as a parent with any support that we can provide you with. We hope that you are attending with your student and you can plan for a fresh start for this semester. So before we get started, I wanted to let you know who is here with us today. My name is Miss Oka, and I am the school counselor for all 8th and 9th grade students at Preuss. Ms. Patrick is also here, and she is our counselor for all 6th and 7th grade students. We are also very excited to have our counseling intern and Preuss alumna, Ms. Fatima, here with us as well. Our attendance clerk is also here, Ms. Villanueva, and she will be interpreting today. We also have some of our 7th grade advisory teachers, Ms. Williston and Ms. Tan. And we have some of our 8th grade advisory teachers here today, Ms. Norze, Ms. Garcia, and Dr. Ensberg. And lastly, we have Ms. Watson, our vice principal, and she will be here as well to provide her insight. I will also be pausing throughout the presentation so that Ms. Villanueva can translate for us this evening. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can also post questions anonymously in the Q&A and in the chat. We will be able to answer most of the questions throughout the presentation, or we will address them at the very end. So now I would like to introduce our vice principal, Ms. Watson. She started with us a few months ago and is very excited to know all of our students and our families. She would like to welcome you all today and review some information for our students that received 3 or more Ds or Fs this semester.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. We are happy to have you here. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what's called a personal education contract. A personal education contract is a contract that we give to our students who are who have 3 or more D and or F grades. As you know, our mission is to prepare students for the university by providing a rigorous academic learning environment. We have high expectations and our coursework can be challenging. So in order to reach our goal, we need cooperation from students and families, and of course from faculty and staff to achieve that. Students who have 3 or more D and F grades are not on track to fulfill their responsibilities and will therefore receive a personal education contract for the spring. Please be aware that not meeting the minimum requirements for middle school expectations could result in a grade level retention or remediation as needed. If you are contacted to enter into a PEC contract or personal education contract, the terms below are the ones that you will be asked to agree to as a student. The contract asks that you understand that you are not academically on track for middle school expectations, that you commit to attending all needed tutoring and Saturday school, that you commit to the academic schedule and or plan that you have created to become college and career ready. And also that you commit to earning a cumulative academic GPA of 2.5 and a satisfactory citizenship GPA during the 2021 school year. And also understanding that failure to meet these or failure to fulfill these terms may result in a grade level retention.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. So today we will review some information together to get your student back on track and to ensure that they can find success this semester. First, it is important that we review your students' graduation and college requirements. I know that this may seem a little bit early, but it's really important for our parents and guardians to know and what your student can expect when they enter high school. Second, we will talk about how your middle school student can plan for academic success. We will also review some tips for parents that Ms. Torre, our family support specialist, has put together. And lastly, our advisory teachers will share some words and I will review counseling support that your student is also offered. Again, throughout the presentation, please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A and we will answer them if they're not addressed at the end of the presentation. Ms. Fatima?
So academically speaking, your student's first goal is to graduate from Preuss with their high school diploma. Although your student is only in the 7th or 8th grade, each semester contributes their credits towards receiving this diploma and getting into their college of their choice. So here we have a list of the Preuss graduation requirements, and it's important that even though the students are in middle school, that we remember that they're still being prepared for their high school education. So first, your student needs to complete the required coursework that we will review in the next slide. Second, each student will also complete a minimum of 270 credits. So from each semester that they pass, they earned 5 credits. Your student may be earning these credits now as they are enrolled in integrated math and or Spanish. Your student also must maintain a satisfactory GPA. This means that they should receive C grades or better to remain eligible for college admission. Having strong attendance is also something that we emphasize, especially during online learning. Your students' behavior in the classroom and how they communicate with their teachers during online learning is also something important that can impact their citizenship grade. Lastly, during their senior year, students will be required to take a senior wheel and pass their senior advisory class. They will also need to complete the required amount of community service hours, but that's something that they will review once they get closer to their senior year. So when the student enters high school, they must receive 270 credits in all these, a total of 270 credits in these subjects. In middle school, some students may be already receiving these credits if they're enrolled in integrated math and or Spanish. However, if your student does not complete these courses this year, they may need to repeat them again next year as an 8th or 9th grader. Your student's counselor will be keeping track of each of these courses and if they have failed their class. And once that happens, the counselor will be speaking to them about how to make them up before graduation. So this is why it's really important for the students to develop good study habits now in their middle school years so that once they do get to high school, they can be successful in passing their classes and getting their diploma.
Okay, so Being in middle school can be a challenging time for many students. Your student is still developing strong academic skills, strong study skills, and even strong social skills that will prepare them for the years that follow at Preuss. So we would like to go over some information with our parents and families about the next steps to take for our middle school students.
Should we review this slide first? Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Ms. Fatima.
I jumped forward.
No worries. No worries. So here we just have the requirements for A through G requirements, which are the college admission requirements. So these requirements are really similar to the Preuss graduation requirements, but they require that students complete each course with a C grade or better. In some areas, the Preuss requirements actually exceed the UC and CSE requirements by, for example, for history, Preuss students take 3 years, and while the UC only requires 2 years. So once the student graduates Preuss, they will have all the skills and knowledge that they need to be successful in college, but that means that they must put in the work now and have that motivation now before they get to that diploma.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Patrick.
Okay. Sorry I had that off track a little bit. Jumped ahead too fast. So, so what happens if your student earns a D or an F in one or more classes for this first semester? Usually for middle school students, the advisory teacher and or the school counselor will have a meeting, a kind of a one-on-one meeting with the student to ensure that we're addressing whatever needs may be coming up for them, whether it's an academic concern or a personal concern. Because we want to ensure that each student is developing strong skills during middle school so that they will be successful during high school. For 7th graders, if your student fails multiple classes for the entire year, this could impact the classes they take for 8th grade, but we'll review this on the next slide. For 8th graders, they're going to be starting out high school next year. If your student struggled in 8th grade courses, this could have a large impact on how they begin 9th grade. We may consider them needing to perhaps get some extra support in the summer, maybe a skills camp to strengthen their foundational skills, especially in an important subject like math. But we'll provide information near the end of the semester if this opportunity will become available for any of our middle school students for next year. In general, what's important to know is that if your student earns a D or an F grade for one or more classes this year, they may continue to struggle in the next semester of that course. They may need to retake Spanish or integrated math classes again. They may have a more difficult time in some of their classes in high school, and their eligibility for certain extracurricular activities, sports, and or some scholarships that are based on how they do in school could be in jeopardy during high school if they're earning D and F grades. That's why it's really important, and we want to start talking to all of you about this important information now. So, as I referenced, how grades in middle school can impact high school classes. Failing classes in 7th and 8th grade can impact what classes your student will take during the following year of high school, or during high school or the following grade. So for example, what they will take in 8th grade or what they will take in 9th grade. So for example, if your student does not pass math in 7th grade, then they may need to potentially take that class again as an 8th grade student, or they might need to also take math enrichment to strengthen their skills instead of taking the elective wheel class such as music and or art. So it's really important that your student communicates with the teacher about how they're doing in the class, but also that they communicate with their counselor if they're having a hard time in the class, or if anything is going on personally. If we know what's going on personally, we can help to try and strategize with the student and or families to help make sure that we're helping everyone obtain success this semester, so that they can move forward and be successful the following year. As you see on this chart, in 8th grade, if you are to earn a D or F in math or in Spanish, you may have to retake that class in high school, but also you might need to take a study skill class to recover some of those credits. There's a possibility of summer school for 8th grade. So these are just some of the general considerations to look at, and why it's really important to make sure that your student is on track, especially in some of their important core classes. So this next slide, I know this schedule can look a little bit, there's a lot on there, but this is just an example of one schedule that we have to use to kind of help students break up their time in slow segments, but it also includes their school schedule. So it's helpful to look at this to see that sometimes you need just not only a schedule for your classes, but also a schedule for how you're breaking up your evening time. So this is an example of a schedule that you and your student could create together. And it's important that you as parents and family try to make sure that you have a schedule that you stick to. That will help to make sure that students are not fighting you as hard about what is happening during different times of the day. One of the suggestions I always make, especially to middle school families, is, maybe you don't schedule it and call it homework time. Maybe you call it work time, so that they're not breezing through it to move on to the next activity. If you have if a student has completed all of their work, then maybe they move on to just reading, but that's a secure time that's set aside just for work and homework. It's also important to make sure that students are engaged during classes. If there's one particular class they're struggling in, they might need a little bit more time to work on that at night or on the weekends, or that they may need to look into some tutoring options. They can also take some breaks during classes or during their homework schedule or their work schedule if needed. This is just one example of how to plan the different hours before and after school, but we really just would love for you to sit down with your student and to create something that will work for you and your student, and that you'll be both willing to follow and it's realistic. We understand that many families are working during school hours, but the more that you can set aside a schedule that everyone is working on together, the better successful you may be together. So if your student feels like their current schedule is a little bit overwhelming, you might just want to have them start out with something simple. Even just creating a to-do list can be easy and manageable, just a to-do list for each day. Your student could use some of the templates you see here, which we'll provide for you, or they could create their own. Even a sticky note to put on the wall that gives them small reminders about whether it's an A day or B day and what's important on those days could just be a simple, helpful reminder that you place on the wall for them to see when they wake up. Making a daily schedule that focuses on one day at a time can be more manageable. For instance, Sunday evening, it can be really helpful to plan out how Monday will look and just break down each hour that you have going on in that day so it doesn't seem as overwhelming or like such a large amount of work. If your student is struggling to find the motivation to focus or even to create a to-do list or a task list, we understand that, but we want to remind you and your student that we're here to help in this process. So if they're struggling even to get started, encourage them to email, call, or text their counselor and or their advisory teacher to let them know they need help with this, even this first part. We can help to set realistic goals for each class that will make the content and the assignments that they're receiving seem a little bit more manageable. We believe in your students. We believe in the teachers believe in your students. We just need to make sure that we're all getting started somewhere. We know that things are a little bit more extraordinary right now during the pandemic. So we all want to work together to make sure that we're considering what will work best for each student. All of the resources that you see on this page are saved in a Google Drive folder that we have shared with your student. It's also hyperlinked on this page, so you can review it when you go back to this presentation after we're finished.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. So I will just go over a few simple tips that your student can kind of take away from this presentation, and you can also encourage them to show you Google Classroom if they haven't already done that. So I'm going to minimize this. This is just a quick example of what Google Classroom looks like. Your student doesn't have as many classes. I'm just enrolled in a lot of them. So this is just a quick example of how it will look. What you can do, and I would encourage your student to utilize this. A lot of students are not aware of it. There's actually a calendar that is linked with all of their Google Classrooms. So when you click on that, you can see a breakdown of anything that is upcoming. So the different colors are also associated with different classes. Another thing that you can do as well is you can just filter by class. So if I just click on Integrated Math 1, then I will see the assignments just for that class for the week. So this is something simple that your students can do, and this is how you can kind of monitor them on a weekly basis. Another thing that they can do is if they click on To Review, it loads. Then they will see everything that is a work in progress and if they've completed it and the things that are upcoming. So this is another quick task list that you can also refer to and see what assignments are upcoming for your student. Right next to their icon or their photo, what you can also do is look through the different applications that your student has access to. The ones that will be most familiar to your student will be Google Drive, Google Classroom. Your student will be using Google Docs, which is similar to a Word document. Google Calendar also displays all of their upcoming assignments. And some other tools that they may be using are Google Hangouts, which they can easily chat with either a teacher that uses it or their school counselor. And another tool that might be useful is Google Keep, which shows different lists that your student can create, and they can actually check off things that they've completed. So those are just some quick tips that you can utilize with your student, and we encourage you to sit down with them and to also just review Google Classroom because that will be the most up-to-date information in comparison to Aries. Some other tech tips, and there's other videos that we encourage you to review after this presentation. There is a nice video on how to use Google Classroom for parents and what other features might be essential for you to kind of look through. Also, if your student is experiencing any technology needs or concerns or something is happening with their technology that they have at home, we encourage you to please reach out to our tech team by emailing tech@preuss.ucsd.edu.
Next, we have some, we would like to share some tips from our family support specialist, Ms. Torre, and some of our 7th and 8th grade content teachers. So here we have some general tips on how parents can support students in distance learning. So first, we hope that parents can model for students what self-care looks like. It's really important to be doing that during this time. We also hope that parents can help their students establish a schedule, like Ms. Patrick mentioned, so that they can develop time management skills that will be helpful for them not only as they're in school, but also as they become adults. Time management is really important. We also recommend setting up a designated study space for students. We understand that even if there's limited space at home, it's still really important to have a space for students to do their work and to attend their classes. And if you do need additional support, you can communicate that with the counselors. Like Ms. Oka mentioned, it's also really important that parents familiarize themselves with the online learning platforms like Google Classroom so that they can further support their students' learning. It's also really important for parents to stay in contact with teachers and have open communication with them. The teachers at Preuss are here to support the students. They want the students to succeed. So it's really important that parents make that effort and email and contact their teachers. Also, parents can support their students by limiting the students' distractions. For example, if there's a TV or a cell phone nearby, to limit that during school hours. And again, that's when a schedule is really important because the student can have time for study and then also time for TV and games and all that stuff. And then also during this time, it's really important for parents to help monitor their students' stress levels. And the counselors are here to support the students if they have any needs for that. So please contact the school counselor if that's happening. And then lastly, a really important tip that we would like to share is for parents to set up a weekly or biweekly check-in with their student to review their Google Classroom. So like Ms. Oka shared, Google Classroom is kind of the go-to place where all the students' assignments are at, and that can help by parents sitting down once a week or twice or once every other week with their student and reviewing Google Classroom. They can monitor their students' progress, so that they're supporting their learning. If they need additional help, they can get them tutoring, and also so that there's no surprises later on when grades are submitted. So it's really important for parents to check in and monitor Google Classroom. And then also on the slide, we have some references for the Preuss class times, the calendar, and also the grade report calendar.
There are also some tools that you can use while we are in this online learning environment. I'm sure that all of these look familiar to you. Aries, as you know, is a great resource for parents to check student grades, missing assignments, your student's class schedule, the names of each teacher and their email addresses. And you can also download this on your phone, or you can just open it in a web browser on your phone. I know that some parents have been having some difficulties with Aries, so we definitely recommend looking at these instructions after this presentation if you're having any difficulties with that. Another great resource is Parent Square. So this is the main form of communication with our school. You can message each teacher individually, and you can reach out to them if you have further questions about how your student is doing. If you're having any difficulties with Parent Square, also please contact Dr. Azizi Brewer if you need help setting up this account at all. And lastly, your student should have shown you this Google Classroom and the applications that are with that. But this is where you actually get the most up-to-date deadlines, and you can see any missing assignments or anything that is up and coming. This is where your teachers will also be posting their Zoom links for class, and you can access this directly through your student, or you can email or Parent Square the teacher to be added directly to the classroom. And Miss Tori also wanted us to share some family resources with you all. The social and emotional wellness of your student is a high priority for counselors. And we have weekly support groups that if your student is feeling isolated or just needs a space to connect with their peers, we're having that on a weekly basis. So there is a middle school girls group and a middle school boys group as well. We also have referrals for mental health services, and therapy is available during our remote learning environment. There are also a variety of community food distribution centers that your family can utilize if you're in need. And the Preuss School Bookmobile or Support Mobile may also have additional supplies or additional food items that would be available. All of this information is linked on this slide and is also on our Preuss website. And then one of the biggest questions that the counselors have been receiving is, when can my student receive tutoring, or when is tutoring available? So here we have gathered a list of your students' core class teachers with specific times that they offer tutoring. So teachers are also accommodating, and they can provide additional support as long as the student emails the teacher for assistance. Students can typically find the tutoring Zoom links directly on the teacher's Google Classroom as well. So this is a list of the 7th grade teachers. The next slide will show you the 8th grade teachers. And again, you can refer to this presentation again in the future to reference when the tutoring is available. And here's the 8th grade support from our teachers. And then we also wanted to remind you of SEA, which is still available to your student during spring semester. All SEA sessions will be on Zoom, and your student can access the link on those specific dates. Students can get help in any subject area, so please encourage them to attend SEA, even if they're not behind in classwork. This is a great opportunity just to have a working space. There are also some tips from our core teachers of English, history, science, and math. The overarching theme here is that teachers want the students to communicate directly with them and to just be transparent and to let them know what support that they need. Email is the #1 form of communication right now while we're online. So please encourage your student to reach out to their counselor, to their content teacher, or their advisory teacher if they're struggling with understanding any information. The teachers are willing to meet with your student individually to provide them with any academic support they may need to pass their class this semester. Our teachers understand that there may be a variety of challenging circumstances that your student may be going through, so please reach out to them if you need additional assistance or support.
Okay, now we're going to move on to some advisory teacher and counselor support, helps, tips, assistance, guidance, support, advice. First of all, we just want to take a moment, Ms. Oka and I, and acknowledge the amazing job that our advisory teachers do. We know a number of them are here, but they're all just an amazing support for us as well as your students. So first, I'm just going to talk about who the 7th grade advisory teachers are. The first one is Miss Tan, and I believe she is here. We also have Miss Chovy, and I believe Dr. J is out there somewhere, as well as Miss Williston. And those are our 7th grade advisory teachers. As you know, your student advisory teacher, they're a primary form of contact, and it's great to keep them informed if anything is happening or going on with your student. We're going to let the advisory teachers just share a few words about any other tips or recommendations that they would like to share or provide today. So we'll start with the 7th grade team, and then we'll move on to the 8th grade team. 7th grade teachers, if you have anything to share, please do.
Should I go first? Okay. Hi. I'm just wanting to add on to what the counselors are doing, which is an amazing job, like check Aries, Google Classroom, contact us. But also I want to make sure that you encourage your students at home, like your child at home, give them positive feedback, make sure that they move because that helps regulate their blood going in their brain and help them to be more awake. Make sure that they eat and get hugs and join the middle school social time. And this can definitely improve their moods and hopefully motivate them to do well in school. I'll pass it to Ms. Williston or Dr. J if you want to add to anything else.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, one of the really important things is just reach out. You know, when in doubt, reach out. So we're here to help, and so please contact us through Parent Square or email. I know some of my advisees' parents have my phone number. I've called home. They can text me or even call if they feel like it's absolutely necessary. Just reach out, please. Whenever there's anything we can do to be of assistance.
What they said. So yeah, Ms. Tan and Dr. J, that was great. I appreciate that because I would like the same thing. I do want everyone to know that Monday through Thursday, we are having individual tutoring sessions through Mr. Hua. He's got a bunch of seasoned veteran tutors who are there to work mostly one-on-one with any kid who shows the interest. So as Doc said, please reach out. We will find a space for you, no problem. You just have to show up and you will get helped all the way through. So we all want you to succeed. You have a good foundation from elementary school. Our middle school is trying to, add some bricks on that foundation so that we're very strong and ready for high school.
Thank you so much, 7th grade team. I would also like to introduce the team of amazing 8th grade advisory teachers that include Mr. Arias, Dr. Ensberg, Miss Garcia, and Miss Norsay. Do any of you all have anything that you would like to share? If not, I have a question I would like to put out to all advisory teachers, but please first, I would love to let you go ahead and share any thoughts that you may have.
You're on mute, Dr. Ensberg.
Thank you. I just want to say briefly, I really appreciate the comments from our 7th grade advisory teachers. And there's also a lot of tutoring available for 8th grade. From 3 to 4 p.m. on Monday through Friday, they can come and tutor with me in my tutoring room where we have a number of different tutors in different subjects. All 8th graders are welcome to come and get help in any subject. And what parents and guardians have to say to their own kids is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. When you express how important education is for you and for your kids, it really does make an impact. And please continue that wonderful support. Reach out to all of us and get our help using email or Parent Square. And thank you for all that you do to help your kids be successful. It really is a team effort. Thank you.
I would just like to add, yes, I completely agree with what Dr. Ensberg said. This is Miss Garcia. I'm 8th grade, and my room is also available from 3 to 4 every day except for Friday. I open my door, my Zoom room also. My students have access to the Zoom link, and even if they just want to show up and just kind of feel like, there's a presence there to help them, motivate them to finish just even one assignment. They don't have to stay the entire time, but just to get the feeling that they're accomplishing something, because oftentimes, they just need a little bit more time after school to get something done. And there's so much support. And like everybody said, communication is key, especially when we're home. We can't know everything that is happening. We can't check in. And so having that communication is just so important. Thank you.
I would like to piggyback on what's been said already. We have a lot of great advice that's been given and some good thoughts. I am available on Wednesdays after school for tutoring, either one-on-one or group. My students have decided that was the best day because all the other teachers have the other days of the week. So we want to provide a day that was open for them to come by. I think my biggest concern for the students in my class is our distractions. It seems to be the hardest challenge for them to find a quiet place to work that is distraction free. So if there's anything that they can do or that you can do to support them in finding a space where they can work without distractions, I think everybody's capable of doing the work. And we know it's challenging to find a space when everybody's at home, but that would be the number one thing that I have heard from my students that they need help with. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you so much to all of our amazing advisory teachers for their advice. The one question I do want to put out, and I will just say that I will attempt to answer it, but I welcome any teacher feedback about this question as well. One of the most common questions that we have been receiving has to do with whether or not students have to have their camera on during class time. And what I would say as a counselor is that we are doing everything we can to help our students engage and be connected to their learning and to their teachers and to their classroom. So if your student is able to have their camera on and to be available in that way, the teachers greatly appreciate it. And it helps them also to have a sense of how your student is doing. Sometimes the expressions that a student shares, even in a visual space, helps the teacher to know when they're unsure of something and needing support. So we are very, very, very strongly believing in the fact that students who are on camera are more engaged and more likely to be successful in their classes. There are times when perhaps the camera doesn't work, but that is a situation where you need to make sure, families and students, that you're letting your teacher, your advisory teacher, or your counselor know right away so that we can try to replace that technology. We want to make sure you have the ability to be on screen if possible. Certainly there are extreme situations where there could be personal things going on in the family, but we always want to encourage our students to be present and to be in class and on camera if possible. If any of the other teachers, because I know you're in those classrooms every day, would like to add on to that, I would really welcome your thoughts here as well. Okay. Everybody feels good about that answer. Great. I know that a parent had asked that question, so I wanted to make sure to address it because it is something that comes up quite frequently. So if your student is telling you they don't need to be on camera, that would make me ask them why your teacher says that, and maybe to double check and email the teacher, because I think almost all of our teachers are hoping to be able to interact with your children in the Zoom and see them and see their faces if at all possible. So thank you so much for the parent that asked that question. And for anyone that has more questions further following that, please just reach out to those teachers. Okay, so we want to, Ms. Oka and I want to just review a little bit about some of the types of support that a school counselor can provide. There are a number of different domains we support students. We have academic, personal, social, and college and career. In the first domain, academic, we're trying to help the students stay organized so that they're able to stay on top of their classes. We want them to be aware of the graduation requirements and why it's so important to be succeeding in their classes and moving forward. Academic progress. So if your student is earning 1 or more D's and F's, we want to at least have a conversation with them. If your student is earning 3 or more D's and F's, that's where we probably want to have a bigger conversation, although this meeting could provide that conversation for you and your family. But if there's more conversation that is needed and you would like to include the advisory teacher and or counselor, that is something we can set up. We talk about the courses that students are selecting and planning in terms of working through their high school career. But also when we look at personal and social support, I think this particular domain is so important right now because not all of our students have the ability to connect with some of their peers. So we want to make sure that they're getting support through their family, through whatever friends they can, through other means that aren't in person at school. If they're having issues with conflicts with any students, we can talk about conflict resolution, trying to help with that. Crisis intervention, that is if anything happens in the family that is impacting them on a great level, we would want to know so that we can let teachers know. And perhaps if your student needs a little bit of a breather or a break in school, we can talk about what that would look like. Certainly, if your student is experiencing any comments online or any concerns over email or even in the chats during their classes, we want to know about it. And we can help to address the situation and perhaps mediate, or if needed, move it on to our Vice Principal Watson. But if there are greater things happening with mental health, we want to be able to pass on a referral to some of our community-based agencies and get support for your student and or family. Certainly, our mission at Preuss is always to shoot for college and a successful career, which is why we try to start reviewing the A through G requirements needed for all University of California or Cal State University schools. We have kids start to explore colleges and get excited about it, to identify the career or major they're interested in, or to start planning that actual college process. So we're vital members of the education team that work with school staff to maximize your student success. So we just want to emphasize we're here, we care, but families, please let us know what's going on so that we can support you as well if your student is going through anything or your family is struggling. So finding success spring semester, how can you help your student and students, how can you find success during the spring semester? Families, if you look at your students' first semester report card, they were mailed home last week. Have an open conversation about what happened. If for some reason you didn't receive the report card, please reach out to the school and we can potentially have another one mailed home, or we can try to have one sent electronically. we want you to help create a plan with your student to ensure that they can be successful this semester. Encourage them to attend tutoring and Saturday school. Check in with them once a week or even daily. Ask them how their classes were. Ask them if they can show you how they're doing on Google Classroom or Aries. And if your student failed 3 or more classes, please reach out to the advisory teacher and or myself, the counselor, and we can set up an appointment if you have more questions or if you would like additional support. In conclusion, we just want to make sure that you are communicating with your student and that you all know that this is something that we all believe is something that if we work together, we can succeed. With the student, teacher, family, we know that this can be something that we can all achieve even more successful academic achievement. So we are just so very thankful that you were here today with us, that you joined us. Please reach out to Miss Oka. If your student is in 8th grade, please reach out to me. If your student is in 7th grade, our emails, our phone numbers are there. Also our Calendlies, which if you click it, you can schedule a Zoom appointment with us. And also our vice principal, Miss Watson, there is her email. If you have questions, students or family members, please reach out. But we just want to, again, thank you so much for joining us, for being willing to listen, and please communicate with us. We believe that together we can achieve even more. So thank you.